Hello, everybody. Welcome to the awards 2024, hosted by yours truly. Or well, I'm holding the space for it. Um, I very much feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, last year it was Plus One XP, a whole ass company that has like products and games and things, and now it's just little old me. But I'm extremely happy uh, and proud to be here and to be able to hold space for this. And I also want to thank Aaron Lim for linking me up with Nico. Yeah, this is a wonderful opportunity to for all of us to celebrate some of the greatest indie TTRPGs of the year. And we have some truly wonderful and amazing judges here to talk about them. Um, and yeah, TTRPGs are personally really important to me. I make them, I play them, uh, I I talk about them every week on the Dovecote, and so I'm really happy to be able to celebrate and hold this space for folks here. And I think without further ado, I'll hand things over to Nico if you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Eclipse, for having us here. My name is Nico MacDougall. I use he, they pronouns, and I am the coordinator for the awards for the second year in a row. This is our third year of the awards overall. And in just a moment, I will turn this event over to the judges so that they can tell you about the 20 winners of that they selected for the awards 2024. But before I do that, I just want to say a few things. This past year has been a difficult one across the board, and I say that as someone with the immense privilege of living within the US as a US citizen. In light of everything happening in the world right now, you very well might ask, why spend your time and effort on this silly little TTRPG awards show? And believe me, I've asked myself that on more than a few occasions, and the answer that I've landed on is what is for me at the core of TTRPGs, and that is building community. Every year that I've participated in the awards, I've had the privilege and joy of being part of a community of people who just love games. They love different games for different reasons, but I have come out of the awards every year with a greater appreciation for the people who make, play, think, and talk about games. Games cannot and will not save the world by themselves, nor should they be asked to, but they create the space where we can come together to meet new people, imagine new possibilities, and become energized by new ideas. The awards is an ongoing exercise, an experiment in creating community, much like any TTRPG is. Thus far, I've personally found it a successful one, and I hope that you all do as well. With that said, allow me to introduce our judges this year. We have Aaron Buller, a role playing game fan and author of small German narrative role playing games about people in underground trains, a Japanese haiku, and Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain. He is also a teacher, musician, reader, and passionate user of public transport. Combe Martin, joining via pre
Okay.
recorded video, is a French person who likes to read books, wear hats, and create TTRPGs, not necessarily in that order. He likes to commit to frankly ludicrous ideas, such as creating a game in the shape of a subway map or run an Itrus buy session for 24 hours straight. You can find him without too much difficulty. DB is a Filipino improviser, game maker, and storyteller from Hawaii. They have a love for storytelling that challenges and plays with its form. Their blog is at dicebob.com. Hélène Lupa is a writer and game designer based in the eastern part of the United States. She develops both digital and analog games, and her latest project, Job Search, can be found on itch.io. John M. Null is the host of the Real Play Games podcast and a longtime player slash retailer of games, con volunteer, and organized playgroup manager. His UPC, MSRP, Pathfinder slash 5e mindset got radicalized towards indie games during the pandemic. He now has literal boxes of zines and seeks to spread the word about their glory. He currently hails from Kissimmee, Florida, but is working on fixing that. Luke Boniecki is a game enthusiast from Poland with an eye for clever systems and OSR procedures. They have deep interest in hobbies history and game design theory, 2 decades of play experience, and several games designed as well, which you can find at appendix-g.itch.io. Richard Rain is the creator of The Haunting of Cliff Cove, Sherwood, and the awards 2023 winning Moonlight on Roseville Beach. He is a member of the SFWA Game Writing Committee and has twice been a tabletop judge for Games for Change. Sean Four is a Chicago-based writer, editor, professional game master, and video creator in the TTRPG space, best known for dispensing GM advice and indie game recommendations on TikTok as scene_4. Stephanie Bryant is a game designer best known for creating Threadbare, as well as her contributions to the Dracula Dossier, Trilema Adventures, and Time Watch. In her day job, she is an agile coach, trainer, and consultant. She knits, plays bass, and lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can find her at mortain.com/blog or at mortain@dice.camp on Mastodon. Not joining us in this stream are 3 judges, Avalon Ruby, Clay Martin, and Owen Anderson. However, Owen Anderson has submitted 2 of the comments about winners, which I will be reading for him later on in the stream. With that said, let us go and kick off the night with our first announcement of our first winner from Aaron.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Aaron Böhler from Frankfurt in Germany, and I'm talking about our first winner, and it is Cloud Empress by Watt. Let me start with a short story. I remember a visit to the Frankfurt Film Museum maybe 10 years ago. There was a superhero exhibition there that I went to see with my children, who were very small at the time. I I knew a few of the protagonists, of others I had never heard. I had to grin a little at almost all the characters, but then I stopped in front of a picture of Nausicaa at the same time as my son. And actually, I wasn't even a fan of mangas. These cute characters with big eyes and childish scheme usually gave me nothing aesthetically. Somehow, though, this little girl sailing through the air on a kind of hang glider seemed to be something special. A little later, I read all the Nausicaa mangas and was thrilled. Yes, there was this cute little girl, but she stumbled in her innocence past unscrupulous schemers and religious fanatics through oppressed, suffering peoples, a poisoned environment, and mountains of corpses. The cuteness here seemed to me not a concession to mass taste. The cuteness provided a contrast to the catastrophe that made everything much worse. I was very impressed and lent the manga to a few role-playing friends who felt the same way and who have been wishing for a role-playing game to be published in this setting ever since. Then Cloud Empress was published with its own setting, but inspired by the world of Nausicaa. So, did our dreams come true? I don't want to talk too much about the excellent illustrations, which have nothing to do with Nausicaa, but have their own charm. Nor do I want to say anything about the unusual kind of magic and the interesting little pamphlet adventures. But I will at least mention Mothership's clever panic engine used for Cloud Empress. This decision has caused some irritation. Using the mechanics of a science fiction horror role-playing game for an ecological science fantasy manga was said here and there to be inappropriate. But what is it about? It's about existential threats in worlds on the brink of extinction, here, there, and ultimately also on Earth. Nausicaa is not a picture story for small children, and the setting of Cloud Empress is anything but tranquil and idyllic. So, why no panic engine? Cloud Empress not only shows us Nausicaa's toddler eyes, the game also shows us the horror that is reflected in them. And I'm delighted that this quality of the game won through in the end in the jury of the awards.
Wait, sorry. Do you want me to go to the next one?
Yes, sorry. That will be the first video.
Oh yes, great. Thank you so much. Okay. Here, let me go back to gallery really quick. Actually, I don't need to. Okay. Da, da, da. Here we go.
Hello, I'm here in pre-recorded form to tell you about Border Riding, which is a game published by Stout Stout Press, with illustrations by Eli Spencer and writing by Joe Reed. It's a game about maps and boundaries, as the title indicates, and it presents itself in the form of a map. And that alone for me was enough to guarantee it a win for the awards, because I really feel that we are at a point in TTRPG publishing where we can allow ourselves to think beyond the usual format of a book or a booklet, especially when the subject of the game makes it relevant to do so. And as far as I'm aware, Border Riding is the first or one of the very few map-making games that does this. So this alone for me, is a win. But Border Riding is also very interesting in what it does with this basic idea of map drawing game, because it's also a game about the evolution of maps throughout the years and the evolution of the community that uses and that creates these maps. It's really a game that makes the players create a community and a culture with a clear division of us versus them, and then sets out to study or to see how this division evolves throughout the years, throughout the decades, and even throughout the centuries. So for me, it's really a game that is apart from many others with the same themes, if only because it's extremely rooted in the Scottish culture of the authors and the publishers, and it does this thing very well. But also because it really marries what is a map at heart. It's a visual list of possibilities. It's also a way, of course, to present information non-linearly. And at the end of the day, a map is a shared testimony of the things that are around us and how we consider them. So Border Riding is more than a game for me. It's also a successful experiment in new ways to consider TTRPGs.
Okay, great. We're back on.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go over the next winner. Your next winner is La Despanda 1937 by Pablo Lopez, which stretches players over 213 kilometers of desperation and exhaustion as they take on the roles of refugees of the Spanish Civil War fleeing the city of Malaga. After 7 months of resisting an onslaught of the Franquist army, the Republican forces in Malaga would no longer be able to resist the onslaught of fascist troops. An estimated 100,000 to 300,000 refugees left this city on February 7, 1937. During the journey, between 3,000 and 5,000 people died to continuous attacks by sea and air from the Franquist military. The massacre that the game invites players to, La Despanda, occurred from February 7th to February 14th, 1937. This game sheds light on a grim part of history and honors its victims. While La Despanda 1937 can be played with any role-playing system, their proposed Dark War, an adaptation of Cthulhu Dark, creates enough structure to feel this dread and desperation. In the place of a health point system, a character's ability to hold themselves together is measured by their break level. This represents how broken they are morally and physically. The break level moves between 1 and 6, representing the brokenness of the character. At break level 5, they can attempt to reconcile with their broken lives, continuing on their journey. At break level 6, they cannot. They shatter. A character's fate is spelled out tragically, and their player must take their strings and choose. Does their character take their own life, or turn back and return to Malaga? La Despanda paints the tragedy of its namesake with honesty and grief. Descriptions of the state of the villages they find along the Almeria Road, their only route to salvation, are clinical and painted with the hopelessness that claimed those lives. Who do you become when your life dissolves in war? How do we treat our enemies? And who do we find our trust in across the paranoid and tense relations between the factions of fascist and republic? La Despanda allows tables to explore these themes together and masterfully. That is La Despanda, and next up is Luke.
In the vast expanse of tabletop role-playing games, Ecomorphos emerges as a beacon of innovation and hope. Crafted by the visionary duo of David Blandy and Daniel Locke, this game transports players to a post-apocalyptic world teetering on the brink, yet brimming with potential for renewal. Drawing inspiration from the evocative narratives of Miyazaki and the raw energy of Mad Max, it offers a unique blend of eco-punk aesthetics and weird hope, a term coined by its creators to signify optimism amidst chaos. At its core, Ecomorphos is a rules-light system building upon the foundations of Into the Odd and Cairn, ensuring streamlined gameplay that prioritizes storytelling and player agency. The game incorporates engaging mechanics such as life paths, where character creation becomes an adventurous minigame, burdens, which replace traditional fatigue with emotional baggage, adding depth to a character development. The absence of conventional leveling is compensated by adaptations, unique enhancements that evolve characters in unexpected ways. These elements, paired with focus on exploration and discovery, invite players to delve into a fractured world, piecing together its mysteries and crafting their own paths through its ruins. The game's setting is a tapestry of desolation and beauty, where players, as mystic punks, navigate the remnants of a fallen world. The narrative is enriched by extensive ruin and loot tables offering endless possibilities for discovery, alongside a wealth of other randomized elements from dynamic maps to encounters and factions that make every campaign and playthrough unique. Uh, the art direction, a collaboration between Blandy and Locke, infuses the game with vibrant, intricate illustrations that capture the essence of a world in flux, drawing from influences like 2000 AD comics and the surreal landscapes of Mobius. Its vibrant, art-rich pages strike a perfect balance between visual appeal and clarity, seamlessly blending intricate illustrations with intuitive design. The layout is clear and user-friendly, with chapters thoughtfully color-coded for quick navigation and concise explanations and pointers in the margins, providing helpful context at a glance. Whether flipping through for inspiration or running a session on the fly, the book's thoughtful organization makes it an invaluable tool for both for new and experienced players alike. Ecomorphos draws inspiration and elements from a wealth of sources, yet it transcends its individual parts, delivering an experience that is far greater than the sum of its inspirations. Its mechanics, compelling narrative, striking visuals make it a deserving winner among others in the awards 2024. Thank you, and the next is Aaron.
Yes, thank you, Luke. Our next winner is Hoss, a Mothership Scenario by Tim Obermüller and Logan Dean. Consists of just under 30 pages, and it contains some very charming and appealing drawings by Border Jolly, which are somewhere between woodcuts and telephone scribbles. What's it about? Hoss is the governor of the planet Sunsitter. In his heart of hearts, he means well, but To realize that, you have to dig deep. He started out as a trade unionist, fell out with the corporation, and suffered a few mental defects in the course of the conflict. Today, all that's left of his past is the good reputation he still has among some of his supporters. We know this guy. Give him too much power and a philanthropic mastermind becomes a tyrannical dictator. Hoss Planet is small and consists of a single ocean from which 5 domed settlements rise. Perhaps it would have been abandoned long ago if it weren't for a special kind of whale whose bladders contain a surprisingly flexible substance in which the industry has great interest. We know this story. Animals with such resources are hunted until they are threatened with extinction. Then entire industries collapse. It takes men like Hoss to prevent this, men who stop at nothing when it comes to the just cause. The release contains a few pages of background material, followed by missions, survival and exploration scenes, possibly also combat and a few more dangers. The scenario is worthy of an award, however, because sooner or later, player characters will have to deal with their client. The player characters start out as Hoss henchmen and then make discoveries that make their client appear increasingly dubious. Ultimately, the true horror of the scenario is, if I may put it somewhat dramatically, realizing that the other side of evil is also evil, and the player characters are already working for them. When a group realizes this, ethical questions may be discussed. The scenario leaves this up to the players. But one thing is certain. In the end, the player characters will no longer be Hoss henchmen.
I'll pick up there with another entry in the mothership scene, which, as evidenced by Haas and many of the submissions the awards received this year, is a beacon of creativity, innovation, and iteration on adventure and game design. It produces incredible gameable artwork with such consistency that there must be something in the water. And so it is my pleasure to give our next award to Lone Archivists in Other Waters Tidebreak, which isn't just an adventure for Mothership, it's a full expansion, a module in the truest sense of the word. In Other Waters drops players onto a floating science base on an oceanic planet that begs to be explored. The adventure includes ready-to-play subsystems for diving and harvesting specimens from alien sea life, all of which is lavishly illustrated and has some unique biotechnological application that characters can discover through play. If you're giddily imagining playing a game with the vibes of Scavenger's Reign or Subnautica, you're not alone. In Other Waters is a little more contemplative than a traditionally horrific mothership module, though there's plenty here to induce your thalassophobia, the metaphorical and literal pressures of diving kilometers below the surface of a planet with no dry land to speak of, and to my personal enjoyment, lovingly rendered abyssal freaks to be found in the deepest, darkest places of the ocean. Add in a few dungeon-esque facilities to discover, and the Mothership Special, a mandatory dash of corporate espionage, intrigue, and horror, and you have the recipe for an exploratory adventure par excellence. The core gameplay loop of dives and downtime, fieldwork, and research and development moves with an intentional and intuitive ebb and flow. And all of that is not even to mention that the module also includes rules and an adventure for solo play. The creative scene for Mothership is a crowded field of high quality work. In Other Waters, Tidebreak stands out by delivering players and GMs the tools for a fresh take on the base game and producing something new from existing materials. It's this commitment to salvage and the depth of play it inspires that merits for In Other Waters Tidebreak an award. Thank you very much.
Part of what guided me as a judge while in this process was my love for that special delight and surprise that I always felt as a designer and a storyteller and player, experiencing the game story really come to life around the table as we play. But maintaining that sense of wonder requires such a vast storehouse of inspiration, reference, and imagination on part of all the game masters and players out there. And I'm happy to say that both of the winners that I'm going to announce tonight offer storytellers and game masters so many thrilling new game concepts and circumstances with which to delight and surprise their players. And in format, both of these pieces kind of harken back to earlier eras of tabletop production, but both of them also reinvigorate the mediums that they're working in and the fantasy role playing genre with fresh ideas and appealing visual and conceptual design. And the first winner that I'm going to announce tonight is the Levante Papers by Chloe Montgomery, Alyssa Ridley, and other contributors. Levante Papers is a classic example of the gaming supplement. Throughout TTRPG history, supplements have taken so many forms, from faction guidebooks to book-length treatises on certain castles. Supplements and their like represent the peculiar freedoms that we have in tabletop gaming, the freedom that all of us have playing at our own tables to construct in a magpie-like fashion whatever might bring us the most delight. And tonight's winner, the Levante Papers, offers up so many shiny new ideas to play with. Levante Papers takes that perennial and ever engaging nerd activity of poking at plot holes and question marks of fantasy world building, and it makes these kind of questions rich fonts of story and world building. Imagining that the denizens of the fantasy world might explore the metaphysics of their reality as meticulously as we like to explore the regular physics of our own, the Levante Papers considers a wide variety of possible story topics in the form of in universe, scholarly articles, letters, and notices that can serve as inspiration for adventure writers or as handouts to be provided to players. The material is entertaining and sharply written, it's curious, it's creative, and it covers a wide variety of topics, tones, and intensities. Various sections include the troubling potential side effects of habitual magical healing, the unionization efforts of dungeon dwelling monsters, the poignant autobiography of a living weapon, and many more. The Levante Papers reinvigorates the game supplement as the proliferator of wondrous detail and the purveyor of weird and wacky other worlds. This is a perfect supplement for the designer or storyteller looking to find fresh inspiration for adventures, NPCs, locations, or creatures. So I'm delighted to congratulate its authors for their excellent work this year.
Hello, this is my pre-recorded self again. This time I wanted to tell you about the 1,000-year-old campfire, which is not the real title of this game created by Tim Hutchings, because the title, as we can see on the first page of the game, is Old Morris Cave, a continuous use campsite in Mammoth Cave National Park. It's a game that, again, deserved a win for me just based on the pun in the title. I think a good pun is worth all the awards in the world. But it's also a piece of narrative that is really unlike anything I've ever read in TTRPGs or elsewhere. It is on the surface a fake study of a cave that we will be invited to explore alongside the people who have been inside it. So it's also a solo game and a drawing game of strata at the same time. But I think for me, what's really at the center of this game is its poetry. Most of the game consists in reading and some flowcharts and rolling dice to go from one point of the flowchart to another. And I don't know how to describe the experience of reading these flowcharts. It's really something like reading visual poetry and maybe micro short stories at the same time. In fact, I'm not sure where we even have to play the 1,000-year-old campfire. Just reading it is in itself a game and an experience. And I was really struck by the beauty of this game, despite its simplicity, despite its roughness in terms of visuals. I think it's really the flowcharts that made me fall in love with the game so much and select it as a winner for the awards. That, and of course its beautiful, beautiful pun.
Awesome. From the exploration of other worlds and times, we now move to three masterful portraits of a time that is familiar and nostalgic to many of us. Like an expert photographer, the collection of games that form Forgotten Palaces by Anna Anthropy, your next winner, captures times familiar and strange in bite-sized packages. The packages are as follows: Lost Kingdoms, this maze will be big enough to call a home someday, and Run on Ventacore. Lost Kingdom is a game that explores the relationship between live streamer and audience, as a single player takes on the role of the streamer, and 1 to 30 audience members take the place of the chat room. Much like the familiar chat room and stream experience on the streaming platform Twitch, which we're now on, the frame and structure of the game places players in one of many nights of a streamer's career, playing a new game. The conversation of the game is much like that between the conversation between a streamer and chat. The streamer starts to talk about their plan, and chat decides for themselves how epic or terrible the move is. There's a flow in the live stream between gameplay and conversation, which feels honest to the streaming experience. Sometimes we're watching a streamer for the gameplay, and sometimes we're here to hang out, much like many other game night experiences. With the game designed for a mass amount of players, Lost Kingdom delicately balances the hive mind that is the chat room and the single form of iconic personality of the streamer. This Maze Will Be Big Enough to Call a Home Someday is a game for 3 to 5 players that explores an innocent time of young game designers creating a game together. Find something that guides your kids' creative drive, create their avatar, and together with a group of friends you will design a map together that represents your video game. The end cap of the map creation core of the game tells the story of the game as it leaves your hands and enters that of your players, taking the form of forum posts in response to your game. Run on Ventacorp weirds what a solo journaling game can be, challenging the vehicle of journaling from a physical journal to that of a keyboard. The keyboard is your tool, your knife, your terminal, a portal to the computer and system that you're hacking. The system in game is simple, a selection of text files and folders that you place onto your computer for interaction. The rules are simple. You are a hacker. You want to hack the corporation, Ventacorp. Everything in caps is immutable, and everything else may be changed, mirroring very much the read, write, execute file permissions that you may find on any other computer system. And those are the games of Forgotten Palaces. And we will go to Owen. Oh, we will go to Nico, who is reading the next game.
Yes. So, as a just reminder and caveat, whenever I say I am speaking for Owen. I am not expressing my own opinions. I was not a voice or vote in this process. Just want to say that. I, speaking as Owen, am here to present an award to Lyrical Ludology, episodes 1, 9, and 11 as the submitters. Before listening to Lyrical Ludology by Logan Timmons, I would not have been able to describe what a lyric game or game designer is, consists of, or is about. Now that I have, I think I know a lot more. I know that lyric games are not a genre, but a movement, where everyone is welcome and where you might find games that ask the question, what if a book containing the rules to poker could sing? At first, I struggled to articulate why I think Lyrical Ludology deserved an award, but I've come to see this collection as aligned with the awards themselves. The awards markets itself as dedicated to finding the weirdest shit out there and bringing it to you, the tabletop enthusiast. And so I believe Lyrical Ludology deserves to win an award because I believe the podcast is doing the work I want more people to do. Finding the game communities slash scenes slash movements, creating weird shit I would not necessarily have encountered myself. That is not something I can say for all TTRPG focused podcasts. There is room for both, of course, but I believe the awards is the place to highlight Lyrical Ludology episodes. The podcast connected me to ideas and people that I want to learn more about. It is unlikely that I would have discovered them on my own, which is exactly what I hoped would happen to me judging the awards. And so that is why I believe Lyrical Ludology by Logan Timmons is deserving of a win. Now I will turn it over to Helene.
Thank you. For my second announcement, I'm going to be announcing the. Let me start over. I lost my train of thought there for a second. The second winner that I'm announcing tonight is Stirring the Hornet's Nest at Hethamsia by Mooncow. Stirring the Hornet's Nest at Hethamsia is a honestly delicious adventure, artfully designed to be responsive and rewarding of player engagement. It is laden with interesting encounters and wonderfully surreal beings. The scenario is really dense and detailed rather than sprawling and unmanageable, and it gives players a tight and exciting map to explore. This is an adventure that's built up from the basic foundation of the dungeon delve concept, though the players remain fairly well above ground the whole time. Beyond that, I'm going to try and avoid spoiling the specifics of the adventure because I hope everyone here who enjoys fantasy gaming will give this adventure a try. Suffice it to say that the straightforward objectives of this scenario really belie the complex obstacles that the players will encounter within the Temple of Hethamsia. Every room on the map has its own complications and clever tricks. Useful and slightly dangerous little items are scattered throughout to entice players into thinking up clever or maybe crazy solutions to the challenges they face. There's even a little bit of interfaction drama going on in the background to keep the stakes high enough to be thrilling without reaching the sometimes mind numbing intergalactic scale to which fantastic stories are so often prone. All the information required to run the adventure is right there, arranged in a nice logical flow throughout the manual following the layout of the dungeon. Stirring the Hornet's Nest puts the emphasis on storytelling that happens at the table, rather than overloaded exposition or unwieldy hyperstructured scenes. The appeal of this adventure is also bolstered by its evocative and richly textured art, which includes all the critical creatures and locations and highlights the whimsicality of even the most dangerous foes lurking within the temple. Stirring the Hornet's Nest at Hethamsia combines the best qualities of neat and bounded old school adventure writing with the cleverness, concision, and pure style that make the modern indie scene so vibrant. So, as I wrap my contribution to this year's awards, let me give a final heartfelt congratulations to Clay Montgomery and Alyssa Ridley, to Mooncow, and to all the folks who collaborated with them to create the Levante Papers and Stirring the Hornet's Nest. And thank you to everybody involved with the awards. It was a tremendous privilege to read all these wonderful entries and to spend time discussing them with my illustrious fellow judges, and I'm very glad to be a part of the wonderful TTRPG community.
Thank you, Ellen. I'd like to echo basically everything you just said. Ever since I played my second RPG, I have been on a constant hunt for games that do something new. When I find a game that does something I've never seen before, combines elements in a novel way, or inspires me to think in a new dimension, it sticks with me forever. Glyph by Oddments is one of those games. Billed as a solo journaling RPG, Glyph introduces players to the practice of glyph crafting, producing magical effects by combining symbols, which are unique to each practitioner but represent common concepts. The game walks you through creating your personal glyphs, and it's your job to arrange your symbols such that the meaning of your spell is clear and unambiguous. This is easier said than done. What follows then are a workbook style series of prompts which invite players to create symbols for a few concepts at a time, then challenge them to use those symbols to achieve very specific goals, like removing a pimple or summoning a perfect copy of an heirloom rocking chair that was burned to ash from the past for a sentimental client. By the completion of the workbook, you have a functional grimoire that you can use and share with other glyph crafters, and if you dare, put to the test by attempting the challenges at the end of the book. More than just a solo RPG or even a puzzle game, Glyph is a meditation on the nature of communication, interpretation, and meaning, of what it takes to communicate an idea not even to another person, but to oneself. The fact that playing the game produces an artifact, the grimoire, that you could hypothetically share and compare with another person is icing on the cake. Maybe more importantly, I just found it really fun to play with and think about. It's the most fun I've had toying around with a magic system since Ars Magica, and if you know what I'm talking about, that alone is worth an award. I believe perhaps the highest calling of a solo RPG is to give its player the tools to think about the world in a new way, and in that, Glyph succeeds with creativity, humor, heart, and of course, magic. Thank you so much.
It's with great excitement that we recognize the next in line of winners for the awards for 2024. Lucky number 13, Wreck This Deck by Becky Anderson via Black Armada Games. Now, I'll fully cop to being the least informed with regards to solo RPG games of all the judges simply because I didn't interact with them that often. But the review process of the 100 and change works that were submitted for this year's awards was a bit of a boot camp with regards to them, and I'm very thankful for the experience. As one of the standouts that emerged within a crowded field, Wreck This Deck, a solo journaling game about playing a deck runner who binds demons and infernal forces in a set of playing cards to produce various beneficial effects like cartomancy or ritual work, did a tremendous job of walking a very fine thematic line and producing an excellent work. It would have been very easy for this product to run headlong into a lot of potential pitfalls when dealing with a premise that's directly related to diabolical entities, be they accusations of promoting demonolatry, the game specifically does not do that, or veering to a very puerile and nihilistic sort of space with a backdrop of people with zero riz trying to be a D-bag and mess with folks for troll kicks. The game specifically avoids and moves away from that. One thing the text does a wonderful job of, which is something that colors and strengthens the game experience, is the repeated exhortations to the deck runners regarding fighting off the influences of the demonic by using their decks to do good things and to be decent to others. In a similar vein, the book manages its presentation in a thoughtful and straightforward way, providing play concepts in a no-frills fashion, and then reifying them with concise and flavorful examples as to how those concepts would be executed. The artwork may be a little bit on the sparse side, but art's expensive if you're being a decent person and paying your artists well, and besides, too much would overwhelm the simplicity of the text and layout. What is there is well placed, and very much has a feeling of the Die Brüche movement's colored woodcut / monotype combination prints that gives it a cohesive and rough feel, suiting the aesthetic perfectly. Overall, Becky Anderson's delivered a concise, engaging solo RPG experience that combines the right amounts of attitude, simplicity in delivery, and flexibility that should make anyone intrigued, based on a concept that provides endless imaginative prompts. It's a product that's not afraid of a little blood, and it knows what it is implicitly. And with that in mind, we know it implicitly deserves to receive a spot in the roster of the awards winners. Congratulations to Becky Anderson and Black Armada Games.
The Almanac of the Sanguine Paths by Rory Montford is an epistolary game played between two players who take on the roles of werewolves, corresponding via an unknown third party who relays their letters to each other. Players alternate between letter writing and journaling to tell their story, prompted by a tarot deck. Will the characters develop a friendship, a relationship, a love, a rivalry? Will they hold on to their humanity and their principles through their monstrous changes? Spoiler alert, no. There's a lot of flexibility in this game and how to play it. A solo mode invites the player to take on a solitary and somewhat lonely journey, exploring the feeling of rejection from the werewolf community. One option is to pair the Almanac of the Sanguine Paths with Dead Letters Society, where you can instead play a vampire. And while my partner and I chose to play this in its standard form, one of us is definitely going to vamp out next time. This game has beautiful production quality and evocative graphics. Sinking into this game, I feel like I'm a Victorian lady getting ready for an evening of catching up on my correspondence. I have to actively resist the impulse to get too precious about responding to my partner's letters and just get to it. Congratulations to Rory Montford for the Almanac of the Sanguine Paths, a worthy addition to the awards.
By Jack Harrison and Mousehole Press is a radiant gem of solo journaling RPG design. A warm, contemplative journey through magic, growth, and connection. Drawing on the timeless charm of Kiki's delivery service, this game places players in the role of a 16-year-old witch in training, leaving home to spend a transformative year in the bustling, mysterious city of Koriko. Through its elegant mechanics and heartfelt narrative, Koriko offers a deeply personal and enchanting experience. The game unfolds across 7 volumes, each an invitation to explore, reflect, and grow. At the start of every volume, players set intentions by building a volume deck, carefully selecting tarot suits that shape the themes and challenges ahead. Major arcana cards from these decks introduce confidence. Vivid and compelling characters could become part of the witch's circle. This confidence evolves throughout the story, returning for hangouts in later volumes to deepen relationships and enrich the narrative with drama. Each volume offers rich opportunities for creativity and choice. Players draw cards to guide their witch's journey, crafting evocative scenes from prompts and selecting twists from a grid to introduce surprising developments. The dynamic combination of structured setup and emergent storytelling ensures every playthrough is unique, inviting players to flex their imagination while making engaging and meaningful decisions. At the heart of Koriko's design is its dice stacking resolution mechanic. When the witch faces moments of risk or uncertainty, players stack dice into a tower, creating a tactile metaphor for the precarious balance of courage and consequence. Together with the grid-based twist and the returning major arcana confidence, the mechanic infused the game with tension, creativity, and emotional resonance. The game's clean layout, color-coded chapters, and well-explained procedures make it a breeze to play, even for newcomers to journaling games. Thoughtful organization and clear instructions ensure that players can focus on the storytelling experience without being bogged down by rules, making Koriko as accessible as it is engaging. As the seasons turn, players explore Koriko's winding streets, meet its eclectic residents, and capture their witch's growth in letters to a mentor. By year's end, players face a poignant choice. Will the witch stay in Koriko, embracing a new home, or venture onward, carrying the lessons of the journey into the wider world? This decision anchors the game's themes of belonging, transformation, and self-discovery. Koriko, A Magical Year, is more than a game. It's an invitation to pause, reflect, and imagine. Its seamless blend of mechanics, narrative, and artistry makes it shining and well-deserved winner of the awards 2024. It reminds us that every story, every relationship, every risk holds its own quiet magic. And now, back to you, Stefan.
Thank you. Our next winner is Liaison by Marilee Buffkin. I picked up this game about ladies in love, and I thought, this is going to be a delightful little romp into queer femininity. I'm going to love this. The game combines mechanics from Alex Roberts' For the Queen and Epidia Ravichel's Dread. So immediately I thought, Dread, sure, Starcrossed uses Dread too, and it's also a romance story game. Friends, Liaison is not a delightful romance story game. It is on the horror side of Dread. And as you learn early in the rulebook, all of the ladies who are in love are married to men. And one of those men will most likely murder one or more of these ladies before the end of the game. It's a serious topic and one that can be very triggering. Fortunately, Buffkin has provided strong content notes to prepare players for that tone and the unique type of horror that it presents. Reading this game gave me some very complicated feelings. It's discomforting to frame a sapphic love story against the almost inevitable violence of men, but I think that's exactly the point of it. Playing this game keeps you unsettled. And for me, I was thinking about this for some time after I finished reading it. It has this sort of, I don't know, it does what you want horror to do, which is keep you a little bit anxious about the monsters in the dark that you've been introduced to in that experience. Congratulations to Marilee Buffkin for um, scaring the heck out of me and on this well-deserved award.
Hey, I'm Richard, and this is my first announcement. And let me get my notes up because they just disappeared. Where did they go? There we go. I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm going to bury the lead a little bit and talk about another game that came out several years ago, which will be a little bit of a spoiler. Good Society, a Jane Austen RPG, was definitely not the first freeform GM-less game that I played, but was the first one that completely stole my heart. In it, you play members and associates of the landed gentry, pursuing your goals and plans for personal happiness while navigating life among your peers in a country town. And one of the most powerful aspects of Good Society in the games I played is the refusal of the game to sort of ignore the arbitrary structures of power and privilege and pettiness that surround the characters, while also making space for their humanity, their hearts, and their feelings. Bringing out things like monologues and correspondence so that players can explore the things they could not say out loud. So it's an incredible privilege to announce the next honoree, an alternate setting for Good Society that moves the focus from Regency Britain to another place where structures of privilege and pettiness can feel as urgent and powerful as air and gravity. High school. Budding by Budding by Michelle Y. Kim and Agatha Chang is a Good Society hack and alternate setting inspired by shoujo manga, an anime genre that focuses on the emotions and social struggles of young people in a high school. The 13-page setting guide introduces some new setup procedures, but it's the roll sheets that create a really deceptively simple but effective approach to shifting the narrative power of Good Society to a contemporary world, simplifying character creation to place more emphasis on the roles that the characters play in the school itself. The new roles and the reputation criteria and conditions capture what makes shoujo manga and anime distinct and emotionally resonant and tie incredibly well to the game's core phases, especially the rumors phase. The roll sheets give players enough information to start with, even if they aren't familiar with shoujo manga, even if they've just had the experience of going to high school in the United States. I am obsessed with the ways in which character creation generates so much of what comes next in gameplay and how it launches gameplay in the narrative and fiction that comes next. So this collection of alternate roll sheets propels this shift in setting in a wonderful, wonderful way that I'm really enthusiastic about. Agatha and Michelle and Agatha, thank you for beautiful expansion to the world of Good Society. It was a privilege to read, and I cannot wait to get this to the table. And I believe I am over to Nico for the next award.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh. Nico, we're having some connection issues on your end.
Great. I'm unmuted. Once again, I am reading for Ramstack. How am I doing now?
Still pretty iffy.
I was worried.
There you are. Okay, you're good now.
I was worried about this mic. Oh,
Wait.
okay. Okay, great. I'm so sorry. My internet was
Oh, okay, you're off again. Oh no.
Earlier, and I was so hoping it wouldn't do that, but I'm glad that I'm back.
Hiccuping again. Yeah. I wonder if it would help to drop your video.
It's a possibility. How about now?
Okay, you sound good.
Better?
I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. I don't need to be on camera. It's fine. I am presenting for Owen Anderson, Bound by Caden Ramstack. It isn't often that I read a game guide and understand right away what game it is going to give me. The first time I opened Bound by Caden Ramstack, I thought to myself, wow, I want to make a game like this someday. While the layout is what drew me in initially, it was only the first thing I marveled over in Bound. I think this excerpt encapsulates the experience and themes this single or duo game offers us. Bound is a setting-agnostic game about the connection between two people as they travel across hazardous land on a journey they will most likely not complete. This is a game about perseverance, the subjectivity of perspective, the dramatic irony of knowing that your characters will most likely not make it, and the desperate hope that they just might. When I first read that, I gleefully envisioned the stories I could tell about two people journeying in an unraveling, fraying world. I was drawn in by two hands bound together at the pinky by a string that becomes the line of a road. The word fray literally fraying across the page. Aspects of character creation literally drawn together into a tangled knot. I could go on. Oh, and there's also a plain text version there for when you need it. My inspiration was fostered as I continued to read the 23 spread pages, learning how to set up, play, and end the story. All I needed to play it was 2 decks of cards for generating prompts and writing implements, 10 tokens, and maybe sheets of paper. The writing, art, and layout in the game guide are their own journey, seamlessly entangled with each other in ways that are intentional and specific to Bound, while clearly taking inspiration from layout, art, images, and more that K. Ramstack cites. Bound is a great example of why the awards doesn't have categories or rankings. We judge these elements collectively. Bound grabbed my attention and maintained it, not by being flashy or familiar, but by showing me this is what I am getting. A reading and gameplay experience that I had not encountered before, and one that inspires me to create my own specific stories within its framing. That experience is something I aim to create in my own games. This is why I want to share it with people, and why I believe Bound by Caden Ramstack is deserving of this award. And now I will bring it back to Richard.
Hey there. All right. Second to last award of the evening. You know the way these stories go. 13 years ago, 4 struggling musicians made a deal with the devil. What were they chasing? Fame, riches, adoration. Your classic devil fare. Our next honoree is a dramatic tragedy about a dysfunctional band of lowlifes. Kara Circen's Last Train to Bremen. This is a short game, 28 pages, designed to play with 4 players in about 3 hours. The players create characters in the literal band that jointly called on the devil and signed the contracts Old Scratch offered. One is a fiddler who handles PR, one is crafting lyrics and playing lead guitar, one the bassist and manager, and one the drummer and treasurer. Act 1, the game setup phase, has players asking each other guided questions and choosing secrets and accompanying secret abilities. This simple set of mechanics can feel fairly commonplace in our kind of narrative play focused world, but these questions really stand out for how beautifully loaded and leading they are, never allowing the players to shy away from the amorality and opportunism of their characters. But the heart of the game is Act 2. As the musicians flee their literal contract with the actual devil, they huddle on a pallet in the back of a cargo train, bickering and, most importantly, playing rounds of liar's dice. Liar's dice isn't just a narrative choice the characters use to pass the time with during their escape. It's a core mechanic that players engage with as well. As players portray their characters bickering, lying, and challenging each other, they are also crafting and sharing memories of the band's meeting, their aspirations and ambitions, and their final fall. The stakes are high in character and out. When the players are down to 1 die, the character must reveal their secret and their secret ability. When the players lose their final die, their character's life and souls are forfeit. The fiction unfolds in the tension between the games that the players and the characters are playing, escalating to the final act in which those who died during the first game of Liar's Dice take on the roles of the devil's 3 heads and force the final surviving band member to play once more, this time for their life. Beyond the beauty of the play experience, the book is itself beautiful, with Caro as art director and illustrator Connor Farset collaborating with Caro on layout. So do yourself a favor, find 3 friends, 3 hours, and a copy of this book and 13 dice, and play The Last Train to Bremen. And if you're lucky, by the end of the night, one of you will still be left alive to tell the tale. And I think this takes us over to John for our final award of the night.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Richard. Last mentioned among equals, Yes Vampire by Starshine Scribbles, aka Jonathan Greenall, serves as a lovely end cap for a year in which people asked, how much can improv and role-playing do together? And they discovered the answer was, sell out Madison Square Garden. Yes Vampire is a simple D6-based RPG about an improv troupe trying to survive an attack by a pack of vampires who've intruded on their theater in search of some not easily missed sources of blood. Did I mention it's $2 USD? I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that a couple of times in the next 120 seconds or so. Now, the layout and the art style is pretty simple, effective, and it reinforces everything about the game. Is it fun stock art for the most part? Sure, and that's fine, because this costs 2 clams. The rules are dead simple and straightforward. Could the playflow use a little clarification? Sure, and that's fine too, because again, it'll run you 2 notes, and maybe a revised edition will get a print version if we're super lucky. This game delighted a lot of the judges, myself included, and punched way above its weight class with its potential, fun concept, lighthearted style, and simplistic rule set. After all, how crunchy do you want to get with the numbers and diagrams and all that shit when you're playing a game about people doing make-em-ups while you and your friends are also doing make-em-ups? The yes and token system incentivizes player cooperation and playing for fun rather than playing to win outright, offering players failure now for automatic potential success in the future, or altering how the vampires behave by preying on the muddled knowledge of vampire lore via the power of improv. And yes, all this, 2 greenbacks. Now, $2 doesn't necessarily provide a lot of mileage anymore. You'd be hard-pressed to get enough food, or to rent a video, or buy enough lube to entertain 3 to 6 grown adults for a couple of hours without everybody having to make some pretty extreme sacrifices. Yes Vampire, however, can offer a whole lot of fun for an evening, and all for 2 simoleons. And most likely, everybody's pants will still stay on at the end of the night. Congratulations to our final winner of the awards for 2024, Yes Vampire by Starshine Scribbles, aka Jonathan Greenall.
All right, and with that, that is all of our winners, all 20 of our winners announced. Congratulations once again to all of the winners. Thank you to our judges for presenting, to Eclipse for hosting us, and to everyone watching for coming to check out the awards 2024. Until next time, make weird shit, make shit weird.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be rating out but in a moment, but I just want to, again, thank the awards, thank Nico, thank all the judges for being here, and for giving me this opportunity to host the show, and hope you all have a great night. I'm going to rate out to my friend Melody Burst, who is streaming... this won't make sense if you're watching the YouTube video that'll come out after this, but streaming Lethal Company, so go watch that. And, yeah, thank you all to everybody who's been in the chat. It's been lovely seeing so many wonderful names, and take care. Bye.